So did someone not have a good time at Coachella?
That's it. That's my intro.
Hi, I'm Amanda. You're watching Swell Entertainment, and today I am talking about Coachella, but specifically Influencer Coachella and the cult around it, because it is a lot. Originally, this video was going to be about Revolve Fest, okay? Because people were prematurely calling it Fyre Fest 2.0 and Astroworld 2.0. It wasn't, because the more I looked into it, the more I was like, oh, they just waited in line for a bit. I've been seeing reports of people saying that they saw people fainting. However, I have not seen anyone say, yes, I fainted, or like anyone be able to identify the people who did faint. And so I'm not denying that anyone fainted waiting in line for to get on the buses for Revolve Fest. But I am saying that it seems like the reports and the comparisons are greatly exaggerated. So we'll talk more about that. But first, the reason I wanted to talk about Influencer Coachella is because I do think that Influencer Coachella and Coachella are two different things, and the experiences are going to be different because of those things. A lot of TikTokers and such that I've been seeing talking about this keep saying that Coachella has lost its unattainable essence. Like, the influencers at Coachella and such are becoming basic, and so it's no longer like this attainable or unattainable thing for people to strive for. Personally, for myself, I have never seen Coachella as unattainable. I'm from Southern California, and so from the time I was pretty little, I have had family and friends go to Coachella nearly every year. And sometimes people's parents are paying for it, and other times I have friends who will save money for a whole year to be able to afford their ticket and their camping spot. I myself have never been to Coachella. I thought about going this year, and then I was like, God, I don't think it'd be a good idea. It's the first one since COVID happened and all of that. And I think that if there's going to be issues, it'll be this year, and so safety-wise and things like that, I don't think I should go. And no brands tried to send me to Coachella. But prior to now, Coachella was never something that was in my budget because YouTube was not profitable for me, and it was never something I could afford. But it was, again, not something that I ever thought of as unattainable. It was just a one-day thing. It was like, okay, one day I'll be able to afford it. But I would never say that I thought of it as unattainable. I also think that because I actually know people who have gone to Coachella as attendees, that I've never relied on the image of Coachella that influencers try to sell their audiences. It's funny because I think that if we listen strictly to influencers in any regard, whether they're talking about Revolve Fest or Coachella itself, we're going to see a lot of similarities and negative notes. But then when we listen to people who just went to Coachella for fun with their own money, for whatever reason, to go and enjoy music, they had a infinitely better time. Much better time. So I do think there is a different experience for attendees of Coachella and influencers going to Coachella with brands or in association with brands. Like I said, I was willing to pay for a ticket this year, ended up not, and I did not get approached by anyone to be sent to Coachella. No one. Not weekend one or weekend two, nothing. Why? I'm not the type. I'm not the type for brands to be like, oh yes, look at this fashion icon. Let's put her in our clothes and send her to this music festival. No, that just doesn't happen for me. I'm not the type. I dress like a slutty librarian half the time. I put this on because I don't have any rave clothes whatsoever. And I was like, this seems fun. No brands were going to send me to Coachella. It was just not going to happen. Should I start with explaining Coachella and Revolve Fest and all of that so people can understand? Because I know we like to assume that people know things, but part of my job with my channel and my type of content is that I try to make things understandable for the masses. According to my comment section, that's the vibe I'm getting. I'm assuming everyone knows about Coachella, but let me explain the differences between Coachella, Revolve Fest, and all of that. Coachella is a 3-day music festival that takes place over a couple of weekends, numerous stages, large acts, small acts. Started in 1999. Obviously, because of the pandemic, it took a couple of years off. This is the first one that has happened since 2019, is my understanding. I believe I'm correct. I'm right. Ignore me. I'm right. I don't know why I'm questioning that. Anyone can go to Coachella. Anyone at all. Revolve Fest is a separate festival party thing that is originally invite only. And I do think to some degree it is still invite only. There was a lot of back and forth on buying tickets. However, it was kind of, again, see, I don't even think I think Revolve We'll talk about how Revolve shot themselves in the foot with this whole event, because I do think that this is not helping the brand at all. Also, personally, I've never bought from Revolve. Why? Their website stresses me out, and I don't want to spend money on things like that when I can't verify the brand quality. Again, this event made things look very cheap. Revolve Fest has been going on for a couple of years now. Obviously, COVID, take a couple of years out of that. But it's a festival that takes place the Saturday and Sunday, the same weekends as Coachella. It's currently Friday as I am recording this of weekend 2. So who knows what's going to happen weekend 2. I am simply talking about weekend 1 because I do think that gave me plenty of fodder for this. For years, Revolve was invite only, and it was more secluded, more coveted because it was pretty much influencers and plus ones only. There was some speculation on what happened with the invites this year, okay? Because there was some talk on TikTok specifically of promoters, like music promoters and stuff, getting hold of tickets and selling them to randoms. And so that added to the numbers and made things more chaotic and all of that. They tried to pull the TannaCon excuse. Oh, someone was selling fake tickets. People from VidCon were coming over because we said it was free, even though it really wasn't because everyone paid. And that's what was kind of happening. I don't know how true those claims were. There was also the thing of Revolve allegedly, because people were saying this, that Revolve was reaching out to influencers of varying sizes, like less than 5,000 on Instagram and 2,000 on TikTok, like very small sized creators, and offering them the chance to buy a $2,000 gift card to Revolve and to use it for clothes. And that would get them a complimentary ticket into Revolve Fest. Now, again, that's one option. There were people who were just invited to Revolve and they were like, hey, wear our clothes and you can come to Revolve Fest. Or they were given like a $2,000 credit. Again, some people did not have to pay. I want to make that very clear. Some people did not have to pay to go to Revolve Fest. Some other people had to pay the $2,000 clothing credit, which again, making things worse for themselves. I'm telling you, Revolve, there's so much that went wrong here. Just from a business standpoint, some people did not have to pay to attend Revolve Fest, okay? But for the most part, it was my understanding that if you wanted to attend Revolve Fest, you had to wear Revolve clothes. There were people who were specifically given Coachella tickets, Revolve Fest tickets, and boarding from Revolve, okay? So these are people who were specifically attending Revolve events as a Revolve VIP, not just given VIP passes to Coachella and then Revolve Fest free tickets. Like they were specifically in association traveling with Revolve. If you weren't given that, you had to, I'm assuming these people still do the same thing where they had to find their own way to California and then had to find their own booking to California. There were plenty of influencers who were complaining about like, I couldn't get into Revolve Fest and I flew all the way here at X, Y, and Z. And, and then we couldn't go into Coachella because of X, all this stuff. So 3 different tiers of who is potentially, well, technically 4, but I'm going to go with the 3 that we have for certain, which is people that were invited with Revolve to attend with Revolve on their VIP, super VIP list, okay?
This is what it's like going to Coachella with Revolve. It's honestly been my dream since high school, and I'm going to show you exactly how it went. Day 1, I checked in with Revolve at the Parker Hotel, went to the gifting suite. It was super cool. It had a lot of brands that Revolve carries.
VIP, which is here's your ticket, here's your Coachella ticket, figure everything else out yourself, but wear our clothes.
I went to go pick up my Revolve Fest tickets. I was so excited to be going. I've only been working with them for just over a year, and it's been a literal lifelong dream. Then we drove to Palm Springs and checked into our 1-bedroom Airbnb, literally our sleeping arrangement for 3 days. Lex and I both wore head-to-toe Revolve and glitter. And then I wish I took more videos, but this was a very stressful 16 minutes of my life. I think I witnessed at least 4 fistfights happen just to get on this bus, because without this bus, you couldn't get to Revolve Fest.
And then people who were given the opportunity to pay for the clothes and then be given a Revolve Fest ticket. There were people, in my understanding, that only went to Revolve Fest and did not go to Coachella, or they bought their Coachella tickets separately. So already we have a lot of people involved in this. There's a lot of different people. One person who I know was on the Revolve Hotel and all of that was Kit from The Bachelor. I know she does other things, but Bachelor people, I always think of you Bachelor people. And I know of that because her friend Ruby, Ruby, screen name, was documenting her weekend at Coachella for weekend 1 as a +1. Now, obviously, their experience is going to be one thing. Another person who had a great time at Revolve and a bad time at Coachella is Remy. And Remy had a good time. This is my understanding with Remy. And I'm not saying that she can't have critical thoughts about Revolve and all of that, but she may not share them because Remy was in association, not just with Revolve for the event, but she was basically one of their faces of the event this year. She did live streams with them. I think she did interviews or something with them, but she was like one of their spokespeople for the event. So obviously she's going to have one experience with it because they're going to make sure she has the best experience because she is one of their faces right now for the brand. Okay. So her TikToks are very much, I love Revolve Fest. Coachella kind of sucks.
No, I hate it here. I hate Coachella.
She didn't really have a good time at Coachella itself. But again, if she was a VIP at Revolve Fest and then not technically a super VIP at Coachella, which I don't really think is a thing really, unless the brands are working to make that happen at both events. Whereas Revolve is going to focus on what's happening at Revolve Fest. They're not going to be focusing on what happens at Coachella. So yeah, it would make sense if Remy had a great experience at Revolve Fest and not a great experience at Coachella because Revolve is going to be focusing on Revolve Fest versus making sure that she's having a great experience at every single event. And again, I don't necessarily think, and because my dad was like, that's so stupid of Revolve. Why would they do that? Why would they have a competing event? It's not necessarily a competing event. It's supposed to be like an all-exclusive party happening simultaneously. It's not necessarily a competing event. Like I said earlier, a lot of people on TikTok watching these events and commenting on it, because the thing about Coachella is that it takes over everything. And to say that Coachella is no longer like a cultural thing or something to be spoken about, I think is not true considering how much of the I'm in LA and everyone I know who's not at Coachella in LA is like, it's no-chella. And we can go to the grocery store and go to the stores that all the influencers usually hog. Coachella is pretty much still in the cultural, I want to use words that I don't fully know if I'm using them right. Cultural space. Let's just use that. Fine. Everything on TikTok that I was seeing, like people who I know don't usually speak about influencer stuff, were talking about Coachella and all of that. So I don't think that Coachella's fallen off. I think that influencer Coachella and the influencer Olympics that is Coachella is falling off. Part of the reason that I think that the people watching these TikToks and these photos at home are saying that Coachella no longer looks unattainable is because the brands have made them very copy and paste. This worked once, we'll do it again. They have numbers on their follower accounts. That's all we care about. That's all we're going to focus on. Revolve has spoken previously about how their best performing months revenue-wise is actually during festival season, whereas with a bunch of other companies, it's usually during the holidays, but they do great numbers during festival season because there's no discounts during festival season, whereas with the holidays, there's a lot of discounts going on. And Revolve also touts that I think 70% of their marketing budget or 70% of their income is a result of influencer marketing. So I think they think that they've cracked the code, which to some degree I do think they have. Again, I've spoken about this before. Creator economy is still extremely new. And we're still kind of figuring out the ins and outs of it all. And the same goes with influencer marketing. I think the brands that think they cracked it early don't remember that it can ebb and flow and change on them. We've seen this before in the last couple of years where people are now valuing authenticity and, I hate using this word, relatability more than the aesthetic to aspire to. And, you know, it doesn't mean that those aesthetics don't exist and that those types of influencers and content creators don't exist, but people like less scripted content. People like me talking to you guys. You know, you like the fact that I am annoying and chaotic and talk in circles because it sounds like we're sitting across from each other at like a coffee shop and I'm desperately trying to explain a movie or something to you guys and I've just had way too much caffeine and I'm very bad at it. You know, it's things like that. The more real world elements of content, and we saw that as part of the reason that Emma Chamberlain blew up the way that she did, because she was a lifestyle girly and a vlogger who like would show herself burping on camera and, you know, the fake tan that she had all over her shirt and things like that. You know, she showed the not perfect side of being a lifestyle girly, even when she was younger, even if she doesn't vlog much anymore. This acceleration of we want real people in their own habitats was accelerated during the pandemic because, again, a lot of people got really turned off by the idea of influencers still going out and partying during the pandemic, not just being hot at home. People like the authentic nature. People like the different styles of various influencers, okay? Like there are certain trends, obviously, but people like when influencers and content creators share their own elements of style and tricks and things like that with current trends, okay? And products and things like that, especially on TikTok. That's accelerated, I would say. So when you have something like Revolve Fest, where they make a selection of clothing of what you can choose from, because they do that. You can't just choose anything on the site to Revolve Fest or for the event to get your ticket. You have to wear from their chosen list of items. When you have that, and then you have, let's say, I'll say 5,000 people invited. That seems like too many, but 5,000 people invited to your event, and you're all choosing from the same 50, 100 items, you're going to get repeats, obviously. Those may be the items you want to sell for festival season, but those items that you are having these influencers choose from may not be what these influencers would normally choose to wear to something like this. Coachella vibes are not. And so in doing that, all elements of personal style are usually ripped away when you have the brand's involvement to this regard. Let's say hypothetically, I was invited to Revolve Fest and I was given this. Frankly, most of what was worn to Revolve Fest, I would personally never wear. Rave or not, event or not, Coachella or not. I would just personally not wear that. That doesn't mean that it's bad. It's just that's not what I would wear. That's not my personal style. I would not be comfortable wearing certain things like that. And I would say that probably goes for a lot of the people there, but they feel like they have to because they feel whether indebted to the brand or not, or because, they were given this opportunity because they're a smaller creator and were given this opportunity to go to Revolve Fest and it's a work event. It's a content farm festival, so they have to wear what they were given the option to wear. For the brand, you see this as a positive because great, we can use different people wearing similar items and get a variety of different looks in the same clothes for our merchandise, for our content, for our marketing, for the influencer marketing. But then for the audience, the people at home watching this, we just see it as, why are 7 people wearing the same top and skirt? Why are they all wearing the same things? What is this? Because the brand then looks cheaper, like we all went to Target and bought the same things. No offense to Target, God. Part of what makes influencers is that to some degree, there is something that an audience wants that they have. There's a uniqueness to them. There's money. There's getting invited to events. There's clothes. There's personal style. There's hot takes. There's, I don't know, influencers on influencers for funsies. You can't be an influencer unless there's someone to influence, which means that there has to be someone following you, which means there's a reason someone's following you. Like there's a ecosystem that goes into influencing, okay? And I think these brands are forgetting that. And they're only seeing it as the dollar signs. See, this is what I tried to convey to my dad, because my dad got annoyed when talking with, my dad's not an influencer, but he's another content creator. And he got annoyed talking with a brand because this brand, my dad comes from a business background and he is now, a content creator and having to talk to brands in a different light. He's no longer, someone in marketing and a salesman. He's now the content creator that they're trying to buy ad space from. And the changes that come with that. And he was getting frustrated because they kept lowballing him regardless of what he did. And I was like, Dad, you need to understand. The brands don't respect us for the most part. I'm not saying that the people that work for these brands don't respect influencers. I'm not saying that at all. But the companies themselves, the brands themselves, we are just the newest form of Facebook advertising to them. That's all we are. We're not people with audiences and, ethics and all of that. We are just the newest form of ad space that they hope will help them meet their new revenue goal for the quarter. That's it. The same goes with Revolve and all the influencers at Revolve Fest. I think that's what a lot of this comes down to, is that these influencers are realizing that these brands just see them as marketing and advertisement space, and they don't see them as people. I think the cat's just out of the bag and they've realized it now. I think that's just what it is, because it is up to you as the content creator, the influencer, to either acknowledge that how a brand is speaking to you, offers to you, whatever. You either have to advocate for yourself and know what your value is as an influencer with the audience that you have, or you have to be able to walk away from sometimes a good deal of money or a deal that looks very good because of your own ethics and your own integrity. And that is a choice that you have to make as the influencer. Because at the end of the day, see, I can't say that no one's holding a gun to your head to take the deal, because I know that a lot of times it's a lot of money, especially with YouTubers. I make good money from AdSense, so I don't want to say that YouTubers don't have to deal with this, but they can still offer a ton of money. But like TikTokers and Instagram people specifically, their forms of monetizing within the platforms are very different than the partner program with YouTube. And so the payouts that you can just make from just making content is far lower. So the brand deals, it's a sweeter deal than, say, someone like me who got offered. I recently turned down an $18,000 deal. Why? Because the company I don't want to work with, I wasn't a fan. Different company offered me another chunk of money. And I said, you know what? I don't like it. I don't like how this is. I don't like how they are handling things and X, Y, and Z. No. And then they sent me a web page that they had made for specifically when influencers pull out of doing deals with them. I was like, that's a red flag. No, but it's on you as the creator. Even when you have a manager, I have a manager. She sends me deals. I say, hey, these are the types of companies I'm not going to work with. You can do that. You have to do that. I'm getting ahead of myself because that's not what we're talking about. But like my point is that when something like Revolve Fest happens, where all uniqueness goes out the window for the influencer, when people are wearing the same clothes in the same place, saying the same things about the same things, whether it's for a brand, for an event, for a musical artist, for the drinks that are being provided or whatever, like it's the uniqueness goes out the window, and concentrating it all in one place like Revolve Fest or Coachella does not help things, because then it just makes all of us be able to go, okay, so this is post 3 of 7 of the required deliverables for this brand. And some people were sharing how much deliverables they needed to post in order to attend Revolve Fest. And that was part of the frantic nature of people trying to get to Revolve Fest that caused, the waiting in line and all of that, because the thing about Revolve Fest is they don't really tell you the location. You can only get there from their buses. You have to go to their shuttles to get to their festival. They probably thought that would be better for security on their end, but I don't know. I feel like that just bottlenecks things. I mean, parking as well. You don't want them parking at the event. I don't know. I feel like they should have figured this out better. They should have planned the shuttle situation in one way. I get it why they did it that way, but they should have planned it better all around. The waiting in the desert is one thing. But side note, I think the max I saw people waiting was like 2 hours in the desert. I get it. It's the desert. But also like people in TanaCon line waited longer. Like I waited longer to get into TanaCon. I mean, the desert, Coachella or not, Revolve Fest or not, influencer or not, I would act like I'm going to the desert. I would act like I'm going back to the raid on Area 51. And I would bring like water with me and food, whether I'm going to a festival or not. I mean, maybe that's just me being a Girl Scout, ignore me. Anyway, shouldn't have happened, but I just don't think it was Fire Festival levels because people weren't stranded on an island. Fire Festival also had a very negative impact on the overall economy and ecosystem of the people on that island. The actual people that live there. Until we hear reports of people not getting paid out of Revolve Fest, we can't really, like the comparisons are just not there. The influencers in line for the Revolve Fest thing, there were other options available. Whereas, being stuck on an island, with the Sandals Resort that was booked full because it's busy season, or being stuck in the FEMA tents and X, Y, and Z. Like, I don't think that it's the comparison to Fire Fest is warranted. And it's definitely not warranted to Astroworld because no one lost their lives at Revolve Fest that we know of. It's not the same thing at all. All around, things are unsafe, and I acknowledge that. But waiting in line for a shuttle is not the same thing as being crushed against a barricade and trampled to death. It's not the same thing. As far as the fight for authenticity goes with this event and things like that, again, it's very hard for brands to see it because of the current nature of like brand association. It's very hard for influencers going with a brand and content creators going with brands to maintain that level of authenticity if they are, say, clothing brands and things like that. Let me just use myself as an example. If I were to go to Coachella because I bought a ticket, or if I were to go to Coachella because I went in association with a brand, whether I bought my ticket and I just was allowed to tag along or they paid for me and sent me and all this stuff, I would have 2 very different experiences at Coachella. And 2 very different videos for you guys would come out of that. Both would be, I tried going to Coachella so you don't have to in some regard, or I've tried being an influencer at Coachella in some regard. But they overall would be 2 very different outcomes, despite the fact that they would both be work trips for me. Because the nature of my content, I review events. If I were to buy a ticket, it would still be a work event. My goal would be to review Coachella to the best of my ability for you guys. So that would be me spending probably more time trying different foods and stuff available, going to the various musical acts, both the small ones and the big ones, and trying to get as much out of the festival experience as I could, versus if I were to go with a brand, also a work trip, but I would have brand obligations. And whether that's deliverables, whether that's going to a certain event at a certain time, whether that's, missing a musical artist that I wanted to see because I had to be at this thing, or going to a party or a gifting suite or X, Y, and Z, it'd be a very different experience, but both are still work events for me. Both are still content farms because that's the way that I work, but I feel like if I were to pay for my own ticket, my goal would also be to try and enjoy myself more at the overall festival of Coachella so that I could properly review it for you guys. I would be trying to get as much out of the experience as I could, including the good and the bad, versus if I were to go with a brand, my goal would be to still have a fun time and get a lot out of it. But I would still also be having the goal of making sure the brand is happy, and making sure I'm fulfilling my obligations if I was associated with a brand. And so I think that alone, just kind of like, there are plenty of influencers who went to Coachella on their own. They just paid for their own ticket and they went. And they all had very good times just going to Coachella. And then they popped over to various parties and things like that if they were notified of them. They had a very different experience than people who, went to Revolve Fest and then missed Harry Styles because they treated it like a concert and not like it was a music festival and they couldn't get it. The fashion situation and all of that, if background of people's TikToks talking about, the various influencer fashions, because a lot of people have been, making meals out of the various looks and ripping into them, whether they were with Revolve or H&M or whatever other companies were doing brand deals or whatever, people just going for themselves and dressing up themselves. You can see in the background that there are plenty of people wearing, just normal clothes like you would wear to a music festival where you're going to be walking miles a day to go to various stages, and you're in the dirt and, wearing bandanas because the dirt's everywhere and the dirt gets in your nose. Do I think that Influencer Coachella is ever going to go away at this state? No. I think it's losing a lot of its luster. And I think a lot of more influencers are probably going to say no or I'm giving people too much credit. I approach these things like how I would do it. And I know that a lot of these people are not me. And that's fine. They can be themselves. I would hope that more influencers decide that they don't want to be associated with various brands. And they're like, hey, look, my experience also matters. And I want to enjoy my time, and I want to be able to dress how I want at these events and X, Y, and Z. I mean, I would like to think that people will do that, but then I also think that people will do anything for free stuff. So I don't know. I guess we'll really see which influencers put their money where their mouth is and stop working with Revolve. TikTok users of color were pointing out how, this is it. This is where you guys stop supporting Revolve, and not when they have a diversity problem that has been ongoing and a size inclusive problem that has been ongoing, and, mainly working with the skinny white content creators. But, when you guys are, inconvenienced, that's where you guys draw the line.
I don't feel like I can leave those videos up in good conscience and advertise a company that I don't support anymore.
I love that what gets them to stop supporting Revolve is something bad happening to them. Y'all were fine with the fact that Revolve is exclusionary. They love showing exactly one body type. They love showing skinny white girl. They love showing a handful of people of color amongst a sea of skinny white girl. They love not showing anybody above a size 6. But for all these influencers, they don't care about these things, right? They only cared when Revolve treated them poorly. So I just really don't feel bad at all. Y'all were basically supporting the Abercrombie of skinny white girl. And then they showed you that they're actually just a corporation and they're using you guys. And then you got upset.
I have a bunch of TikToks that I downloaded throughout the weekend of a lot of great takes that I've been seeing. Mandy, who goes, okay, Mandy, your screen name is Old Loser in Brooklyn. I don't know if it was my dyslexia or me being annoying. I read it as Old Rose in Brooklyn, and I really loved that name. So I'm sorry, it's actually Old Loser. You should change it to Old Rose because I think that's really pretty. But she makes great videos. I really like her stuff. I did like Ruby's stuff. Like I said, she was there with Kit, but obviously she was there, in association with Revolve. So she's going to see, the phrase that you hear in a lot of these TikToks after Revolve Fest and after Coachella is, I can only speak from my experience, which is kind of their way of saying I had fun because they wanted me there, so it's like you'll hear that a lot. So I just think, I trust you all to have critical thinking skills, and, do your own research and look deeper and things like that. I trust you all to do that. And so I do think that there are brands who Do I think anyone got paid to be at Revolve Fest or Coachella? No. I think they got, the inclusive weekend out of it. They got the trip. They got the brand. This is a brand trip. It's a work trip for a lot of people. And so I think that that's what they got out of it. I don't think any money was actually dropped into someone's account other than to buy the clothes. Where's the TikToker who I adore now? Her name is Spoiled Mel. I am obsessed with her now. She was too scared to get into an Uber by herself. Mood. So she walked to Coachella so that she wouldn't miss the Wallow set.
So I'm literally walking because I refuse to miss Wallow's set. I came here to Coachella for Wallows and I'm not missing them. It turns out they started at 4:40 and not 4:25, so I am early.
Like I said, a lot of people got a lot out of this event. And so that's why I'm making the distinction between influencer Coachella and Coachella, because I do think that there are two different cultures within one event, in one weekend or 2 weekends now, since we're at weekend 2. Do I think that this influencer Coachella will go away? No. I hope that this will show brands that do want to work with Coachella and work with influencers in the future, because that's not going away. Influencer marketing is not going away. I hate to break it to people. It's too profitable for the brands right now to just get rid of it. I do think it needs an overhaul. And I think that brands need to respect human beings more in general. Oh, I should also point out, Revolve said they apologize for the issues. Revolve sincerely apologizes for event deemed a complete disaster. What did you think? Did you look at any of the Coachella videos? Did you see any of the Revolve Fest videos? What are your thoughts on the safety issues with the Revolve Fest? What are your thoughts on the influencer culture surrounding Coachella, but specifically Revolve Fest, and how brands are treating influencers as just mannequins to fit whatever photo op they need? Let me know. Comment down below. Reminder, I have a podcast, the Swell Shenanigans podcast. New episodes every Wednesday. And reminder, I have merch like this mug back here. Right here. This one. It's got glasses. So that'll all be linked down below the description box. You'll be able to see my merch, Teespring. Shout out to my patrons. Thank you so much for supporting me on Patreon. If you'd also like to support me on Patreon, I'll leave you listed down below. If you'd like to follow me on my social media, that'll be all up here. And that's going to be it. Have a lovely day. Goodbye. As much of a great opportunity as it is for meeting other influencers and photo opportunities, I just think creators and influencers in general need to get better at advocating for themselves and saying no to brands, because they won't keep getting away with how they treat various people if, the big people up top are more vocal about how other influencers with less followers or whatever are treated, and people in general.
Thank you, Audrey, Alan, Cameron, Christopher, Chris, Cody, Crash PC, China, Devin, Dirty One, Don, Elliot, Evan, Feckles, Hopeless, Incognito, Jacka Ray, Joe, John M, Jordan, Joseph, Kenny, Kim, and Kirsten, Lamb, Lex, Lisa, Luis, Matt, Matt O, Matthew S, Meme Lord, Michael, Michael J, Micah, Nathan, Nathaniel, Pat, Penn, Richard, Rob, Red, Robert, Ross, Sam, Serena, Skylar, Simon, Tasha, Timmy, Tom, Wendy, Williams, Endry, Winter, Wink.